Well, what about a business analyst? What about quality assurance and testing? Clearly, that can't be a developer.
All right, gents. In Scrum, we've got 3 accountabilities or 3 roles on a Scrum team. And let's just tackle that sort of word clarification right up front. So a lot of people call them roles. Scrum Guide used to call them roles. Now it calls them accountabilities. It's not wrong to call them roles. It's just that there are accountabilities that need to be fulfilled. And so they doesn't necessarily mean you have a full-time role in HR labeled product owner or Scrum Master or Scrum Team Developer, right? There, you could have one person fulfilling multiple of these. It could be a full-time position. It could be something you do with part of your work. So with that aside, role or accountability, however we want to talk about these, let's talk through the 3 accountabilities that are on a Scrum team and, try to give some advice or some unique way of looking at these very often talked about roles. So, Rob, why don't you start us off talking about the developers on a Scrum team? Clarify that for a little bit.
I'd love to do that. Let me talk about some developers. So, developers are the people who develop value on your Scrum team. And if you go back far enough, the Scrum Guide, originated around software products and things like that. So maybe there was some overlap between coders and developers back in the day. But currently, the way we think about developers is purely that. They develop value. And so whatever your value is, whoever develops that value belongs in your team. And you get a lot of questions like, well, what about a business analyst? Well, if they're involved in developing value, then yes, they're a developer on your team. Well, what about quality assurance and testing? Clearly, that can't be a developer. Well, if you want a tested quality product, then you need somebody with that skill set also on your team. So who else might there be? You could have technical writers. What about translations? Imagine you write technical documentation for whatever product you build, and you have to have it translated in Spanish, Japanese, and Klingon. Well, you probably need those skill sets on your team, or you're not going to have a done, tested, documented, translated increment by the end of the sprint. And if you want to hear me go off on increments, that was another video. But developers, you don't want too many on your team, but you don't want too few either. Too few, and you're just not going to make a lot of progress. And I mean, we personally know what it's like to have one developer on our team, and me developing, a piece of software. It's going to take me like 40 years to develop what a team could probably develop in 3 hours. So you want to have just enough, but you also don't want to have too many. And I just recently had a training class where one of my teams in the class, and this sort of 2-day intro to Scrum course, they set themselves up with about 12 or 13 people on their team. And they were at a really long table. And one thing we discovered throughout the class is they had skills on their team that the team didn't even know about because the woman that had the skills was on the other end of the table. And so they told me how they didn't have skills to develop in, I think it was Squarespace or something, but they did. They just didn't know about it because their communication broke down because their team was so big. So you got to watch out for teams being too big or teams not having the skills you need to get the job done because that's also frustrating. But developers are accountable for developing quality increments that meet your definition of done, and they're accountable to have this done every single sprint at a minimum. So set yourself up for success, know who your product is, or what your product is, know who your customers are, get your developers to ideally be engaged and motivated to solve problems for that customer, and have reviewable increments every single sprint that are done.
Sounds good to me.
Man, I want to see the documentation in Klingon, though. That would just be so
Seriously.
cool.
I mean, someone out there, someone's watching this video and they need to translate their product into Klingon. But leave a comment.
All right.
In Klingon.
So,
In Klingon.
please do. That'd be great. Might need the translation of that too. So motivation, I like that. That was mentioned as part of the developers' pursuit as they build valuable increments, and product owners have a critical role in building that intrinsic motivation component. Namely, they are accountable for product backlog management activities and all the things related to healthy product backlogs, which starts with communicating clearly a product goal. So if you're a product owner and you don't understand the purpose of your product and where you're going in the foreseeable future, and that's what a product goal accomplishes, we're going to have a difficult time getting developers behind solving the problem that needs to be solved and truly being motivated in an intrinsic fashion. So product owners have a really critical role as they are the people who maximize the value for the product. If they are not doing their job, if they're not taking on that accountability, we're going to have a gap on the other end. And usually that means increments aren't being done. There's very little motivation. Stakeholders wonder why what we hope we are trying to accomplish doesn't happen. And then there's this incredible focus on deadlines without any sense of value. So we're trying to bring the conversation around value. If we kind of zoom out and think about another role in industry or in organizations that tend to have a similar type of accountability, it would be a CEO of an organization. So a CEO is going to have a tremendous amount of purview and perspective on everything that's happening for that company and for the things that affect it, including competition, marketplace, the impact of budget restrictions or regulatory situations. They're going to be accountable to stand before investors or board meetings and be able to speak to the nature of their company, what's going on, what they imagine the future might look like, and what they're doing to tackle some of the challenges around their company. So let's now bring focus towards the product owner. Same thing. Your product needs that kind of a captain, that kind of a leader who can understand the value that's necessary for your product, be able to pair that up with what's needed in the marketplace, with your customers or with your internal customers. Some people get hung up on that wording, but whoever is using and benefiting from your product, that's your person that you need to be connected with. So in a larger product environment, product owners are going to be stretched way too thin. I think that's just natural. A CEO is not the only person in the company doing all the work. They have assistants, they have other C-levels, they have directors, they have VPs. And in larger product organizations, I think you're going to see this true for product owners as well. They have help. They have business analysts who are dedicated towards processing things. They have subject matter experts who are on the ground floor. They can't be everywhere at once, but they're working with these people to resource valuable information to be able to help product owners determine valuable next steps based on as much data as possible. So we're doing the right thing driven by goals. So that's a lot of words, but a product owner accountability is much more than a Jira administrator or somebody who's going in and just shuffling product backlog items, even though the Scrum Guide says that's their primary accountability by way of activities is product backlog management. There's a lot that goes into healthy product backlogs. So product owners, it's a accountability that's extremely important, that sets the stage for the motivation for the team. It sets the stage for the benefit for the customers and those who use your product, and it can make or break your companies. So it's a pretty major accountability.
Yeah. You're telling me that a product owner isn't the only one who's allowed to touch Jira? What? It's crazy talk. I was just talking to a friend this week who's interested in making a career change, and he's looking into Scrum, and he's like, can I be a Scrum Master? Like he thought there was some sort of ceremony or something that he needed to be like knighted or in some way, shape, or form. Not really, but that's kind of the direction the conversation went. The conversation started with just me explaining to him what a Scrum Master is and what they do. And a lot of times I start with what they're not. Scrum Master is not the team task master. Scrum Master is not the team boss. Scrum Master is not the chief problem solver. The Scrum Master is not the person who is the Jira admin, because if it's not the product owner, it often falls to the Scrum Master to be the Jira admin. The Scrum Master doesn't even really make that many decisions, if you think about it. Like, they manage the use of the Scrum framework, so if the team starts doing things that erodes the framework, they can make some decisions like, no, we're not going to skip this retrospective, actually. But other than that, they're not really accountable for low-level decision-making. Here's what they're accountable for. They're accountable for how effective is this team? How good is this team at doing what they're supposed to be doing? Achieving their goals, building increments, using the Scrum framework. And, not being a huge expert on the world of sports ball, I still know enough to know that if a team, pick your favorite sport, football, basketball, whatever, if a team is consistently losing games and is never winning, they've got a score of 0 and whatever, a record of 0 and whatever, eventually we're going to look at the coach and say, sorry, you're not working out here. We need a different coach who's going to make our team better. And And the coach can say, well, that's not fair. I'm not the one on the field running the ball. But you're still accountable for how well this team is doing. And that's what the Scrum Master is, right? We want someone who is looking at systems, who is looking at team health, who's looking at the things that the rest of the team, the product owner and the developers, because they're so busy creating value if you're a developer, or you're so busy doing all the things Greg just said about owning the product and being the CEO for this product. They're so focused on those things that those other accountabilities might lose the forest for the trees. And they're so busy at what they're doing that nobody's looking at the wide view and saying, we're not as effective as we could be because there's a communication breakdown here, or there's a policy in our organization that's preventing us from being as adaptable as we should be, or fill in the blank with 100 other different types of impediments. The Scrum Master may or may not be the one to resolve those impediments. Sometimes it makes sense for a Scrum Master to roll up their sleeves and solve those problems. Sometimes it makes sense for the Scrum Master just to highlight them and say, hey, team, this is a problem. What are we going to do about it? And let the rest of the team members weigh in and come up with a solution. So I think the Scrum Master is probably the most misunderstood accountability. Also, probably the hardest to grasp if you're not familiar with Scrum. Someone who decides what the product's going to be, that's pretty easy to grasp. Someone who builds the product, that's pretty easy to grasp. And then you have this person with a strange title that does what exactly? Like, this is probably the hardest one of the three to grasp. And it's probably the one that is misconstrued at organizations. And I see Scrum Masters with that title, but they're really acting as a project manager or a task manager or a administrator of a tool. So, try to fulfill that accountability by thinking of how effective is my team and what can I do to make them a better team. Hey, thanks for watching that video. Did you like what you heard? If so, you're going to love our Scrum classes. See, not only do we talk about these ideas on YouTube, we're also professional Scrum trainers, and we'd love to have you in one of our classes. So if you need to level up as a Scrum Master or a product owner, maybe you need to learn how to scale Scrum or combine Kanban or UX with Scrum, click the link in our description and you'll find a list of our upcoming classes.
If this is your first time to our channel and you're interested in growing in your agility and understanding things like Scrum and other agile topics, then be sure to get started by subscribing right now and hit that alert button. I don't want you to miss the thing.